じゃあまずこれじゃあ I'm gonna let everybody who wrote read their own. Okay? どうぞ。
あなたは18歳ですか？
はい、いいですね。Anybody see what's missing? It's a little spelling thing.
Hang on. あなた。
Oh, you're missing an oo. Or no.
There you go. Where?
Oh,
you
blew it.
Oh,
yeah.
You're right. It's been a week.
はい、じゃあこれは
あなたは高校ですか？
高校。
高校生ですか？
はい。
電話番号何時ですか？何ですか？
Okay, what's missing in there? はい。番号は
Oh,
何
yeah,
です
you're
か？
right. You're right.
はい。
Because I always get confused with the what in Denwa.
Part of the word.
Yeah.
はい。
So over here.
はい。電話番号は
So
何
depending
で
on
す
her
か？
answer, it depends on the second question.
Oh gosh. They're learning Japanese pickup lines already.
Ellie taught us that first one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
はい。じゃあ次は
that'd be me.
Hi.
Boku wa koji desu, which is the closest I can get to Cody desu.
Ah, okay. Okay. Well, and what you wrote is za.
Or, oh, I got it backwards, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. That's the one you were looking for.
Yeah.
Koji.
Why not just use
Yeah.
the other G that they have?
Because he was trying for D, but we don't have a D sound yet.
Yeah.
That's one of the things we're going to talk about with katakana.
Okay.
So, coming soon.
I mean,
Okay.
the G and Ju.
that's
G.
true.
Yeah, well, G and this G are pronounced the same, but this is the G from the T column.
That's
so
what
that's
D
closer
would
to
be
the
if
D.
there was
That's
a D.
where- If there were a traditional D, that's where it would be.
Okay.
That's why you picked that one. Okay. これは
私は21歳です。
はい。21歳です。はい。Be careful on your oo. Try to smooth it out if you can. Okay. It should be, more like that. Okay. これは
私は大学生です。
はい。私は What's missing? Just, yeah. Eat where?
Dai.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, insert an E there. By the way, this is what I use for insert something here. So if you see just that on your test when I hand it back on Thursday, that means something's missing in there. I'm not telling you what because I find that students learn it more effectively if instead of giving them the answer, I just show them where something's missing and make them figure it out for themselves. So I highly recommend that everybody go through their graded test and look for any place where something is marked like that, meaning something was missing. If something is circled or underlined, that usually means it was like way off. And so look for, if something has like, there's a blank and there's a line here like that, that probably means something got left out completely. Sometimes I'll circle something that was in the directions, what you were supposed to have translated or whatever. So like if the question was in Japanese and your English translation is missing a word, I might have circled the word in the Japanese original that you were supposed to have translated and you just missed, things like that. So look for that. Like I told somebody, but not everybody, I finished most of the grading, but I haven't finished tallying the points or recording the grades yet, so that's why I'm not handing them back today. Okay, so I will have them ready, I'm sure, by Thursday.
How about our homework grade?
I haven't had a chance to put in the computer yet. It's in my records,
Okay.
in my paper copy, and then once it's uploaded, then you'll be able to see it in Canvas.
Wonderful.
Okay?
Great.
So I should have all that done for Thursday, I hope.
I haven't checked them yet.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. これは
私は1年生です。
はい、いいですね。これ
私の専攻はコンピューターです。
はい。Okay, some
Yeah, I
missing
forgot-
letters.
I forgot the-
Yeah. Senko wa computer desu. Okay.
I wrote one here.
Hi.
It's, it's actually just something kind of silly, but I wanna know if the sentence structure, or
Okay.
how it needs to be fixed.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's wrong.
Okay.
私のホバクラフトはうなぎでいっぱいです。
Okay. Watashi no what?
ホバクラフト。
As in hovercraft?
Yeah.
Okay, that's gonna be a katakana word. So
Yeah,
I'm
it's
gonna go ahead and do it.
it.
Haba. Kura.
Oh, yeah,
Do.
well, dash.
That's gonna, yeah, hovercraft
Okay. So dash.
wa.
は、うなぎでいっぱいです。
Unagi de ippai. As in full of eels?
Yes. My hovercraft is full of eels.
Okay.
When I was studying, it's literally something that just popped up in the search. I was like, just trying to, translate things in Japanese, and someone literally looked this up, and I was like, okay, wow.
Yeah, it's a,
Watashi no hovercraft wa unagi de ippai
Isn't that a
desu. Yeah,
Monty Python
the
one?
structure works, but it's not something that we're
What
gonna
really
be
is that?
learning anytime soon.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's a Monty Python line.
Okay,
Is it?
Yeah.
that would explain
Yes,
a lot.
I think it, yeah, you're right. Okay.
They translated that, but they haven't
Okay.
translated the African swallow one.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, anyway, okay, so we're starting katakana tonight. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. And then, once we've gone through sort of the fundamentals of how katakana is, then the next step will be to teach everybody how to do their names, because a lot of your names are going to require some of the special combination characters. Okay, because you remember the combinations in hiragana, kyaku-kyo, gyagyu-gyo, shashisho, chachicho, all those guys? There are all of those, but then they also invented some specifically to allow Japanese to accommodate sounds that just don't exist in Japanese traditionally, but they exist in other languages, and Japanese needed some way to deal with them so that they could borrow words from those languages or render foreign people's names in some way that would be closely resembling their original names. Okay, so can everybody recognize some characters that look sort of like the hiragana they already know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they,
Ka, too, also.
yeah, ka is basically the same except it's missing the extra line, right? So this is katakana, doriru, ri looks basically the same too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Some of the others,
Na
No.
is
na is like one piece of the original na, and a good number of them are like that. A good number of katakana are from the same origin as the hiragana, but what happened is hiragana is a cursive version of a whole character that got simplified down. Katakana is usually a fragment, a single piece, a single component of a whole character. And about half of them, I'm guessing, are actually the same character for both. So that's why some of them look like a piece of the other one. And a good number of them are actually from entirely different origins. So that's, not as helpful, but that's just the way the language evolved, because the people inventing hiragana were not in communication with the people inventing katakana. They developed independently of one another and then got thrown together a couple centuries later.
simple phone call would have solved a lot of problems.
Right, except that that was at least 1,000 years before there was such a thing.
Taking out the string as time changes. It's fine.
Yeah. So anyway, so we're going to do katakana doreru first before we look at new vocabulary for this chapter. So it's the same order. So, and I noticed some of you understood and knew the order really well, had the whole katakana, hiragana chart memorized in order, and some people not so much. So here is, everybody know what this one is? A, I, U, E, O. Ka, ki, ku, ke, ko. Sa, shi, su, se, so. Ta, chi, tsu, te, to. And we're going to come back to all these, so we're just doing like a quick ones through first, okay? Na, ni, nu, ne, no. Ha, hi, hu, he, ho. Ma, mi, mu, me, mo. Ya, yu, yo. La, li, lu, le, lo. Wa, o, Okay, so far so good? And now the diacritical marks work exactly the same way also. So ga,
Ga,
gi, gu, ge, go. Za, ji, zu, ze, zo. Da, ji, zu, de, do. Ba, bi, bu, be, bo. Pa, pi, pu, pe, po. Kya, kyu, kyo. Gya, gyu, gyo. Sha, shu, sho, she. She, there's one of our special ones, she. So you can do names like Sheri,
Sherry.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah, okay, and Sho, okay, so pay attention now. Ja, Ju, Je, so like Jessica, for
Jerry.
example, Jerry, yeah,
Jerry.
Joe.
Jerry.
yeah, so you can do Bento Jerry. Very important, right? Okay, cha, chu, che. So, for example, cheku,
Checkers.
checkers. Yeah, well, chekkas, but also cheku as in the check. You know, like the check, please,
Oh,
and
okay.
check mark, and also
Czech
Czechoslovakia. Yeah. Czechol, and various other words that, you know, chesu,
Cheddar.
cheddar, okay,
Cheddar.
yeah,
I don't know, I'm just trying to throw some out.
yeah, so that's some examples, okay, and then of course, cho,
Cho-
nya,
Yeah.
nyu, nyo, hya, hyu, hyo, bya, bu, byo, pya, pyu, pyo, mya, mu, myo, lya, lyu, lyo,
Yeah.
we. It's an u with a small e, and it comes out
Like
we.
French?
Like French, yes, we. Okay? Because remember, we only had the wa in the W's, right? We didn't have any other ways of making,
We. Alright.
so we. Yeah, so this allows you to do a W sound with other vowels that don't otherwise exist. So we, and keep going. We, wo,
Wo,
and some other oddball ones. Ca,
Sa.
ca,
Sa.
yeah. Si,
Si.
not important for English words into Japanese, but maybe for some Russian words or some other European languages, right?
Okay, because this is conforming to all other languages.
Yeah, this is
Not
not
just
just for
English.
English. This is any other language that has stuff that has been taken into Japanese. They have to have some way of rendering it, and they're trying to come up with sounds that can reproduce those original sounds to the best of a Japanese person's ability to pronounce it. Some Japanese people can't pronounce certain things because their language just doesn't have those sounds, and there are certain ones that Japanese people just have a really hard time reproducing. But they're doing the best they can. So this is si, okay, and se, and so,
So,
and here we have ti, as in iced tea. Seriously, real word.
what do you have to throw in? Lemon tea.
Lemon tea.
How's that work?
Hi, lemon tea.
Lemon tea.
Hi, this is fa,
Ah,
yeah, as in do, re, mi, so, fa.
La.
Yeah, la, yeah, do, re, mi, so, yeah, yeah, so, okay. Fi,
Oh my.
fi,
Like fa, fi, fo, fum.
yes. Fi,
Fi, fa, fo,
fe,
My bad.
there's fe,
Terrible guy.
okay, fo, there's your fo, yep. Yeah, fo, soup, right. And here's D for Cody. Okay, so Cody is going to be the ko in katakana, and then big det, little e, and then the hyphen is an extended vowel, Cody. Because if you don't put that, it just comes out Cody, which is, it doesn't give it the emphasis in the right place, but Cody is closer to how English actually says it.
Okay. Cool. Because there's no
Cody.
T, or there's no T to get
Right,
D.
right.
turns
So
into
they
chi.
do it this way with a det. So det e, det small e is D, and tet small e is T. Okay, so that's D. And here we have dew, as in Mountain Dew.
Jew?
Dew, yeah. And then here, this is a very special character.
Oh, yeah.
This is an U with a 10-10, which is normally not even possible, right? So what they did with this is the V sound. So this is va. Yeah, U 10-10 is a V. So va.
Just no rules, just whatever they want.
Hey, it's their language. They can invent whatever they want,
Just
right?
whatever.
So this would be V, vu,
Blue,
ve, vo.
So they use
Yeah,
it from
so-
Venus.
Yeah, so you can do Venus, Volkswagen, violin, etc.
So if I don't know a
Okay.
Japanese word, I can just kind of whip it out in katakana. There's a chance I'm right.
There's a chance, yeah.
Okay.
The trick to getting your katakana words right, if you don't know it in Japanese and you know, if you think it might work from the English, the trick is to, one, have some idea of the conventions and rules that Japanese people use for the conversion.
Okay.
And if you can do a Japanese accent, that actually helps. And then, of course, at some point it's just about exposure and practice. So, you know, if you've heard enough katakana words that came from English, you start to get a feel for the rules they follow to try to create those things.
Gotcha. It's like an accent. It's an
Yeah.
accent.
Yeah,
It's a written
and
accent.
honestly, I mean, I have known Japanese people whose accent in English was so thick that to me it didn't feel like they were speaking real English. It felt like they were speaking katakana. I have worked with, unfortunately, a couple of English teachers in a middle school who spoke katakana. Yeah, some of the English teachers I worked with in Japan spoke beautiful English. They really spoke it well. They still had a detectable Japanese accent, but it was a mild one. Some of them full on katakana the whole time. And it was like, excuse me, what did you say? Can we just speak in Japanese? That would be so much easier. So here we have our whole breakdown. So let's just kind of go through, this is vertical style. So let's go through it together. You ready? Okay, so a, I, U, E, O, ka, ki, ku, ke, ko, ga, gi, gu, ge, go, sa, shi, su, se, so, za, ji, zu, ze, zo, ta, chi, tsu, te, to, da, ji, zu, de, do, na, ni, nu, ne, no, ha, hi, hu, he, ho, ba, bi, bu, be, bo, pa, pi, pu, pe, po, ma, mi, mu, me, mo, ya, yu, yo, la, li, lu, le, lo, wa, o, Okay, and that's the end of the slideshow. All of that got recorded, hopefully, so you'll have that to reference. Now, do you guys want to go through and kind of break down how to write some of these, or do you want to go straight into creating some names?
Let's do it the democratic way. I'll go with names.
Yeah, I'd rather see the
Hands,
words.
hands up for names.
Okay, you'd rather start working on words right away? Okay.
Who wants to do
Is-
learning to write? Anybody wants to
Does
learn to
anybody
write
feel,
better?
there are a few specific ones that I want to actually point out the correct way to write them because they are tricky, but then we can jump into the next piece.
People like compromise.
Okay, so pretty straightforward. The main thing I want to point out is that it's got what you might call a smaller top and a longer tail as compared with ma, which has a bigger hat and a littler tail. Okay, so versus ma,
It was also
Okay.
closed in more, like the
yeah,
first two strokes have a
are
more
yeah
acute,
a acute angle, yes.
yeah,
Than ma, okay? I looks very much like a kanji component of this basically same shape. So that's useful. You'll notice when we start doing katakana, when we start doing kanji rather, that a lot of katakana pieces look an awful lot like kanji pieces. So that's really useful when you start going to memorize new kanji. If you don't know what that component means as a standalone component, but it looks like a particular katakana letter, if you already know your katakana well, then you can memorize it as, oh, it's got a yo in it there, and it's got a ne in it there, and so forth and so on. Okay, so there's I. Okay, u. The main thing to know here is write this one first. The little top line is first, vertical, and then this one, and then that one. Okay. E looks basically like capital letter I in English, which is a little bit confusing since it's actually e. But it also looks a little bit like somebody took a hiragana e and just simplified it and made it more blocky, right? Okay, so let's see if I go back to this view, then I can click through easier. Okay, so O, vertical, horizontal, then the slash. Ka, pretty self-explanatory, right? Just a blockier version of ka. Ki, pretty easy also. Ku, they have it extended a little further than I like in this font. Most people write it with that line only sticking up a very small amount. Contrast with ke, where this line line sticks out a lot, and this line also sticks out a lot.
Is it important that the line does stick out?
It doesn't have to.
It doesn't even have to.
No, some people write their ku like that.
Okay, as long as,
So it doesn't have to stick out at all necessarily, it just needs to, the two pieces should be sort of on the same diagonal, parallel to one another, slightly curved. And the top piece is usually either flat or slightly, like some people write it with a little bit of a slant to that top line instead of having it be truly horizontal. But either one of these is also good, or that, okay?
That'll
But-
make it easier to differentiate those.
Yeah, that makes it easier, and these lines very distinctly stick out.
and
It's
also that,
3 separate lines as opposed to only 2.
that vertical line is in
Yeah.
the center, the third line is in the center of the second line. It
Yes.
goes all the way to the edge.
Right, yeah. And the width in here is similar on the 2. So this is somewhat wider of a character in a sense. Okay, and these 2 diagonal strokes are somewhat parallel to one another also. Okay, ko, we looked at. Sa, be careful not to confuse this with hiragana se, right? Which sometimes has a hook, sometimes gets written with little or no hook. But this is sa. Which line is longer, which line is shorter is the major difference. And this one curves under on hiragana se. And on katakana sa, this line is short and that line is long, and it's got a little bit of a curve, but it doesn't bend all the way under like the other one. So that's sa. Shi, and what's coming
Sue?
in su, yes, that is one of the main things I wanted to make sure we talked about. So she versus su. And I forgot to bring them today, but I actually have transparencies that I got made, so we can do an overlay of those two, and you can see the comparison of the relative angles, because that helps. Because these 2 are laying down more, these 2 are more vertical. This one is also laying down more this way, and this one's a little bit more upright. And that's one of the main ways to tell the difference. The other difference is in the writing, which it's not always visible when you're writing with a regular pen or pencil. This one comes up from the bottom, this one comes down from the top. And that's an important distinction to make, but it's not always as obvious when you're doing it with a pencil compared to a calligraphy brush. These are a calligraphy font. You can kind of tell by the gradual change of thickness. These were based off of how it would look if you were writing with a Japanese calligraphy brush. So that's shi. Su's not that hard to learn. Se, notice that se looks like hiragana se minus a line, right? And with the hook being a lot larger and more obvious. So is kind of the same problem as shi and su. So is more like su, top down, versus which is like shi. So this is shi and su, this is and so. And one of the reasons I like this version of so instead of the Z top version of so is because of the similarity between this and the top of that version of so. So that's a mnemonic to some degree for some people at least. So that's so. Ta, notice that it's a lot like ku, but with that line through the middle. Okay? And make sure that that middle line does not cut through. Okay? Chi, make sure you're getting a little bit of a curve on that downward stroke. Okay, it should not be straight. If it's straight, it looks like a kanji.
And that first stroke in chi,
Yeah, it definitely should be on an angle,
It has
and
to be an
it's
angle.
this direction.
okay,
And this one is this direction.
gotcha.
Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, like that. 2, okay, we talked about. And like I said, I'll bring the transparencies on Thursday and we'll be able to see the overlay. That'll help. Te. Notice that te does not cut through the way chi does. And these are two parallel lines, both written from the same direction. Okay. Okay, so that's te. Good. To. Vertical first, then the little diagonal. Na. It's like you're starting to write hiragana na, you just stop there. Ni. Just two parallel lines. Easiest one you're gonna get, right? And it's a homophone with the number 2, and it looks like the kanji for 2. So, Nu, I picked a different font for this one because I didn't like the way the other font, I felt exaggerated things too much. Nu, you want there to be a fairly distinct cross piece going on. You don't want it to be too short because it looks like something else there. You don't want it to be too much of a gap here. Okay, so that's a more accurate Nu than the other font was doing, I thought. Okay, Ne, this one can touch if it wants to. Okay, you can have slight gaps here and here, or you can have both touching about in the center here. Either way is okay. If you have this one detached like this is, make sure it's not any further away than this. Hi.
I could not come up with a mnemonic for this at all. Is there anything you've ever heard about? Or
Honestly,
anything at all? No? All right.
I don't have a good one for you.
You can always memorize it as that one that doesn't have a mnemonic.
That's where we're at right now. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I think memorized as.
Yeah, so, sorry. I was familiar with it as a kanji component before I ever learned katakana.
Oh, okay.
So for me, it was like, oh yeah, that's kind of like that kanji component, no biggie. So, sorry, can't help you. No, looks like you started to write hiragana no and just quit too early. Ha, looks like a evil magician mustache or something. Ha ha ha, right? He, don't have a mnemonic for you. Who, make sure you've got your angle right. That's the main thing on this one, because you've got who, and you've got who, and you've got half a dozen others that have that as a piece, right? So make sure you just have your angles right there. Right? Ne, okay.
Because it's hardest one is your nemesis.
Nemesis. Oh, there you go.
Not bad.
Good one, nemesis.
Right
I like
now, it's
that.
just been like, I look at it and be like, ugh, next. Like,
Yeah, next, okay.
That's where we're at right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Het looks exactly like hiragana het, easiest one ever. Ho, the main thing to know here is do not let these connect. Do not let them connect. Okay? But also don't let these fall too far out of the side. So, like, see how the edges of these are in line with one another? And see how they're both higher than the bottom tip? Those proportions are important. Keep it within the box.
Like, just keep it in the quadrants, huh?
Yeah, keep it in the quadrants, yeah. But these should not touch in the center here because then it looks like a different kanji entirely.
Okay.
Okay, ma, okay, and notice mi, the angle, all three of them should be at a little bit of a diagonal. They're parallel to one another. They're fairly close in size, but if you're gonna have a differentiation, it should be medium, shorter, longer, but it's a very slight difference. So if they're all three equal, that's fine too. Okay? Mu looks like you turned ma upside down, right? So here's ma, here's mu. okay?
Nose.
Yeah, yeah. So, the way I remember these is kind of weird, but ma, because of its angle, it kind of has a shape similar to an ah in English. Mu, because of where it is, it's got a little bit of a shape reminiscent of a letter U in English. So ma and mu. That's the way I remembered them originally, just by that. The other thing that some people use is the fact that it looks like this is outlining the bottom part of hiragana mu, sort of.
Oh, yeah. A little bit.
Yeah, so. Okay, me, again, kind of looks like you started writing your hiragana me and you just quit before you got done, right? Okay, mo, opposite stroke order of hiragana mo. Hiragana mo, you write the hook first and then the two cross pieces. Katakana mo, you do the parallel lines like ni and then the hook. Okay, so mo. Ya should look very much like hiragana ya with one less line.
It's missing a ear.
It's missing an ear, okay. You looks like you're gonna get ready to play hangman, but you're missing the rope.
You forgot the rope.
Yeah, you forgot the rope. Okay, yo looks like you're doing an eye chart backwards. Okay. La looks kind of like hiragana la pushed over on its side, right? It's also a lot like fu, but with an extra line parallel. Okay. Ri looks the same. Ru. No mnemonic for this, sorry.
It looks like a tree roots. Like if
Yeah,
a
tree
has some
roots. Okay, root.
Swinging off.
Roots. Okay, there you go. Re. Other than the fact that it's the end of the hiragana re, that's about the only thing I ever could come up with for that one.
Oh, that's helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes like an L like that. Like
Yeah.
let's.
Okay, let's. Okay, and let. Okay,
Like
lo
that.
looks like a box, but the stroke order is important on this one, and it is not what you think. It's 1, 2, 3. And the stroke order goes like this. Okay? And this is the standard format for how to make the boxes that exist in kanji as well. So it's always this stroke order. Every single time you see a box in Chinese or Japanese, or Korean for that matter, it's that stroke order for the boxes.
How does the stroke order matter exactly? Just handwriting or?
Handwriting, reading other people's handwriting,
Okay.
efficiency. It's actually, it's not going to look right if you do it like that. If you do it, what most Americans want to do is just go all the way around in one square, and it just doesn't come out looking right. And the proportions are all off, the shape of it's off, and it looks like a kindergartner wrote it. And it never gets any better if you do the wrong stroke order. Wa looks like fu with an extra line, or u with a line missing. So be careful of those guys. O looks like fu with an extra line in a different way. And n is the one that is from the checkmark style versus sol. Okay, so that's kind of the quick and dirty overview of how to write the katakana. On the 10-10s, just make sure they're the right angle. They're always angled this way. On the test, somebody did their 10-10s on their hiragana the opposite direction. Doesn't look right. They're always slanted that way. Okay. I don't remember who it was, honestly. It doesn't matter who it was as long as whoever it is fixes it. Okay, so 10-10s always go this way. And As long as we're talking about stroke order, Chisai Maru always goes counterclockwise. Don't know why, it just does.
Huh.
Okay, and I just lost my. Okay. Okay, so we're going to X out of here for a little bit, and we're going to play. Oh, actually, you know what we can do is go toward the end. And unfortunately, I don't have any way of showing all three of these screens at once, but at least if we've got some of them up, we've got a reference. And don't forget, you've got your back of your textbook. You go to the very back of your textbook, you've got the whole katakana chart, including those special characters we talked about on the back there. Okay. So let's see if I can get hold of a copy of our roster for this class, and we'll see if we can figure out everyone's names in katakana. Okay, so I'm just going to go in alphabetical order, so I'm going to start with Lindsay Bannister. So, okay, so, and by the way, some Japanese people put surname first, then the dot, and then first name, even for foreign names, and some people do it in the order that is traditional in that country. So it can be confusing because you're not sure always which one people are trying to do, whether they're trying to be considerate of your culture by doing it your way, or whether they're trying to be inclusive and include you in Japanese culture by doing it the Japanese way. Because Japanese names always go surname
Your last name as
first.
well?
Yeah, we're going to do both.
My first name is spelled like the last name actually is, so.
Oh, okay, but the spelling in English has nothing to do with
That's a
it,
good thing.
because it's really about the pronunciation that you want Japanese people to give it. Okay, because however you spell it in katakana, they're going to pronounce it phonetically that way. So, and when you've got a D that doesn't have a vowel after it, usually the go-to sound is do. So rindozi. Yeah. But if you would rather do like Lindazi because you've got Linda in your family, that would work too. You know, so if you prefer that, so we could do. And actually, the other thing you could do is just do away with the D because the Z sound is close to a D anyway.
Yeah.
Ninji is actually probably about as close as you're going to get. And the G changing to Z is going to be, let me think. Well, you can do
Right?
Z like that if you want to. Ninji,
That's what I like.
Lindsay. Yeah. So you can do this, the special Z. No, wait a minute. No, that's Rinji. Never mind. That's wrong. That's wrong. Rinji. G. So it's going to probably be G. Rinji. Like that.
That's also
Rinji.
a Japanese name, isn't it?
Rinji? No.
No?
Chinese maybe. Not Japanese.
Okay.
Rinji. Okay, and then what they do to separate first and last name is that a dot in between.
So why they don't use the period?
Yeah, one reason. Rinji,
There's no
and
rules.
then
They do whatever they want.
and then banister, right?
Uh-huh.
Banister. So
Yeah, that would be
ba, ni, su, ta, banista, banista. You'll notice that R sounds, like A-R-E-R, O-R kinds of endings, tend to just get the ah sound with an extended vowel. So, Rinji Banista.
Sweet.
Okay? So, you ready? Next is going to be Caitlin Branch, right? So Caitlin, right?
K either way.
Or which would you rather go by in Japan? Catherine or KT? KT? Okay, so you've got a couple of choices, but KT I think is going to be the closest probably. KT, and then your branch. Branch. Buranchi. Yeah, buranchi. Because the chi is the most natural CH ending. Because you're not having to do a combination. Otherwise it would end up being buranchu, which is, it's one extra letter to have to write, and it doesn't get you any closer to the English original, so why bother? That is kind of one of the rules of thumb they go by too, is doesn't get you any closer and it's more work, so don't do it kind of rule.
Yeah, right now.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Since you guys have all of this to reference in your books, is it okay if I turn this off so we have more
Yeah.
space to work with? I will turn this off for now.
Well, you can take your book with you.
I know, it's far.
Okay, so I will put this up. Alright, so the next person is Hunter. Okay.
Hi.
Okay,
I'm trying to
so
wing this.
Hunta is probably going to be Hunta,
That's
like
what I
that. Hunta.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then good now, is that how you pronounce it?
It would just be good now, like.
Good now.
Good and now, like opposite
now,
of bad and
okay.
later.
Okay.
What I think it would be like
So-
golden hour.
No,
No, it's not.
you can do gu. So
I can do good.
yeah, good do. So good do now. Good do now.
Sounds like you're saying good to know.
Yeah,
It's pretty close though.
good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about as close as you're gonna get probably.
So break that down for me.
Good to know.
Cool.
Good to know.
Gotcha,
This
we're
is a
doing a
small
double-
two.
You're doing a
Oh.
double D.
Yeah, you're doing the double D because
Gotcha.
that's gonna get you closer pronunciation wise than good to know. Because
No.
what happens if you get rid of the small two is these become evenly weighted, and gudonao is not as close as gudonao.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome.
So, okay, Bradley Kaczynski, right? Hi, Bradley. Bradley, yeah. And then pronounce your last name for me so I'm getting the right. Say again? Kishinsky, okay. Kishinsky. Probably with an extension too. Kishinsky. Good? Okay. Who have we got next? Okay, Jacob Kaiser. Okay. Do you want to do Jake or Jacob?
You just fine, I guess, but Jake.
Okay, Jake. Yeah, so, and we've got another Jacob, so that helps. Okay, so here's that Jake. Okay, Jake, and then, is it Kaiser?
Yeah, Kaiser.
So, Kaiser, like that. Okay, Julie Lopez, okay, so, Judy, like that, Judy, and then Lopez. Is it Lopez or Lopez? It's Pez, right? Yeah, so Lopez. And then if you want to Lopez, you could do the long vowel if you prefer Lopez, or if you don't like that, Lopez. like that. You could do it without this. Up to you. Okay. Okay, Joshua Miller. You want Joshua or Josh?
Joshua.
Yeah, it is easier. So, Joshua, like that. And then Mira. That's an easier one. Hi.
Isn't it supposed to have a circle?
Oh, sorry, yeah, I did that wrong. Lopez, yeah, there you go. Okay, so Jacob Farr, you wanna go with Jacob so that we've got two different first names?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, so Jacob.
Okay.
Okay, and then Farr is easy, just Fa, like that. Fa, that's it. Okay, Michael.
Just forget it. Forget both of them.
Maikeru. Okay, that's how yours comes out. Maikeru. And then, is it tuning?
Yes.
Okay, so this is going to be an interesting one. Oh, sorry. Tuning. Okay. Eddie. Okay, you get another special character too. Eddie, like that. So, Eddie. And then Waldrop, right? Waldrop. Okay. So, let me think. Okay, so we can do the wa. Waru. Do you like dorapu or doropu? Ra or do? Those are your choices. Okay, doropu. Okay, so Eddie waru doropu. Okay, and then we have Cody. So Cody. Wasaman. So Wasaman. Like that.
Cody, what's your real first name? You spell it Cody.
It's short for that.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Wait, what?
No, my middle name is Dakota.
Got it.
Dakota.
Got it.
Short for Dakota.
Yeah, so Matthew Dakota, but he goes by Cody.
Yes.
So Cody Wasaman. Okay. Any questions? Does anybody feel dissatisfied with their name?
I love it.
Okay, make sure you get yours
Jot this down.
down somewhere in your notes before I erase anything. If you want to write down other people's too, that's good also.
When we write our name on our homework and stuff, should we do it in katakana?
Yeah, from now on, you can do your name in katakana every time. Okay?
Can or need to?
I would prefer that you do your name in katakana from now on.
Good practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good practice, and you'll find that once you get used to writing your own name in katakana, those kind of characters at least get easier. And then it makes it easier for you to remember how to read at least that many, even if you're still blanking on some of the ones you don't use as frequently.
Wow, I already lost track of the names.
The one that looks like it has a capital I on top.
Okay, capital I, right, okay.
Yeah.
But it's not a
Yeah.
capital I, it's an N.
Right. Okay. So, okay, well, everyone's doing that. Let's see. I've got a student waiting to do a makeup test. Can you guys,
Yeah.
how early is it? No, it's too early. 15 minutes. I don't want to kill 15 minutes of class. Let's see.
There we go. Here it is. Right, guys, get a little closer so I can see like the mark.
Oh, yeah, you can get closer if you need to, sure. Okay, I'm thinking I can give everybody time to finish writing this, and then we're going to go through the whatchamacallit.
How do you say your last name?
There's been a lot of controversy in the language
Yes.
lab.
Okay,
over
let me give
it
it
and
to
its
you the right
origin.
way, because a lot of people don't know this, even if they've
It
been in
sounds
my class for
Japanese.
a
I come in
while.
here, you're not Japanese. It was a
Right.
whole thing.
Yeah, it's actually kagoda.
Kagoda.
Yeah, it's not like it sounds or like it spells. It's not like you think it's gonna be. My husband's from Kenya, and this is a Kenyan name. So, and rendering it into Japanese, I had to make a decision whether I wanted to go with a closer to the spelling kind of
Or
thing, or
pronunciation.
closer to the proper pronunciation. This is as close as Japanese can get to the proper pronunciation.
Kagoda.
So that's what I went with, kagoda.
Kagoda.
Because
That's how you say
it's
it?
a more nasal D in his language than it is in Japanese.
Can you
but
say it like it's
kagoda. Kagoda.
That's how they say it.
Yeah, that's how they say it.
In Kenyan.
Yeah, in Kenyan, yeah, in Kikuyu. Yeah, it's a tonal language too, so there's a piece that just doesn't convey. Because, yeah, there's intonation that matters in the individual words.
Sensei Kagoda.
Yeah, kagoda sensei would be
Kagoda
the, yeah,
sensei.
because, and I'll just do it in hiragana for now,
Sure.
sensei, because you guys haven't learned the kanji yet. So that's how you would say it in Japanese.
See that trail, that mark above the last character?
That's a,
No, not that, above it.
that's a
Not-
small two,
Two, okay.
small two, yeah. Okay,
2 dashes and then that swoop.
Alright.
okay.
I don't know.
I have a question.
Hi,
If you're writing this horizontally, where does the dot go?
in
Go
between,
in-
so,
But does it go in the middle?
in the middle,
Okay.
yes. Yes, so I'll
Like
just do
close.
one, I'll do Julie's because it's short. So,
Okay.
centered.
Yeah, I'm just making sure it's like floating, not on the line.
Yeah. Okay, and if you're in MS Word typing in Japanese, the slash is what gives you the dot. Okay, if you, the slash like this,
A
yeah, a slash.
Backslash.
A backslash, yeah, that's the one that gives you the dot, if you're typing in Word.
Okay. I haven't messed with MS Word. On iOS though,
Yeah.
the keyboard, the hiragana
Yeah.
keyboard, this is awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like T9.
Yeah. So, okay,
For those
so,
of you with cell phones back in the last decade.
okay, are you guys ready to do some vocabulary real quick? Hold on. Okay, we've still got a little bit of time. So, can I get a volunteer to come up here and work the computer for me so that I can let her do her listening? She's been waiting. Okay, okay, you got it? Okay. So I'm just gonna, so these are mostly gonna be hiragana words, so you should be able to read them. So I want everybody to practice reading out loud. So this is dai ni ka toriru.
Is it on the screen?
Oh, it's not on yet. It will be on in a minute. And then the idea is just read through all the vocabulary together. And so, you ready? Ichiban, Yamakawa-san.
What's up?
Yamakawa-san. 2番、
ほ
元気な女の人。
これ、それ、それ、あれ、
Any pizza.
You guys seen the kanji at the top of some of them? Dang.
Yeah, I got it, yeah.
Good sit.
Good.
What the heck? I'd rather just hear Ghana than that. Saifu. Was that it?
Jeans.
It's just write it down so you can come back to it.
Right?
So it's a small e, so T, sha. Okay, zashi wa tsumarana kata. You got that one? Okay. Next one is, Itoshi-san wa yasashi hito desu ne. Itoshi-san wa yasashi hito desu ne.
What's on?
There's no background.
That's language.
Jot down the questions, start with the back.
Toilet.
Ichiban. Tanaka-san wa America no tabemono desu ka?
Is that a little too?
That's a
That's
small
a little too, okay.
Oh.
Sorry?
Cool.
Yeah. Tanaka-san wa
Toshio.
tabemono
Toshio. Toshio.
When you're ready, I'll say it again. One more time, just to check. Tanaka-san wa
America.
No, it's easy.
Igiris.
You guys.
2番、週末に海で泳ぎましたか？はい、中国。週末に海で泳ぎましたか？ One more time, or you got it? 3番、どんな映画が好きですか？
Oh, that's in there, right? Yeah.
Mekishi.
Money, right?
Yes.
Money.
Japanese currency is not called yen in Japanese, it's called en.
So why
Think
do we-
about it.
Why
What-
do we don't call it yen?
There used to be another symbol in between the ya, you, yo. Yi and ye, I think used to exist a really long time ago. And so that they may have actually used it for the yen currency word.
It's got like crosses on it, right? Is that what? 'cause there
I
is
don't
a-
even know
there is
how
a
to write it myself.
currency
Yeah, well,
Symbol, what am I thinking of?
yeah, this
Yeah, that's what I'm
is the
thinking.
equivalent of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay? The word en has a kanji to it, which is this, which is the equivalent of spelling out the word dollars.
Oh.
Okay?
Okay, cool.
So this is equivalent to this is equivalent to this. En is the pronunciation of this, okay?
I understand that.
The yen pronunciation is Western mispronunciation, basically. But it may have a historical basis. There may have been a time, 500-600 years ago when people pronounced it with more of a ye sound, which may be where that was coming from. Okay? So you've also perhaps heard of Edo being the ancient word for the city that is now Tokyo. Before it became the capital of Japan, it was known as Edo.
I remember that.
And there are places, I've seen text where it was spelled Yedo, but it was never pronounced that way in modern Japanese. But what it sounded like 500 years ago, well, nobody's been able to make a time machine and go back and find out, so. So, and at any rate, that's. Okay, so. Kakai, high, tall,
Oh, yeah.
and also
Cody.
expensive.
Okay.
Kakai.
Okay.
Irashaimase.
Welcome.
Yeah, you walk into every single business establishment in Japan, and the first thing you hear is irashaimase.
Yeah.
Yep. Especially if they're selling anything. Irashaimase.
Something we don't see every day.
Backing up. Hi. Blank. Oh, onegaishimasu. Please. X. Okay. Blank. Oh, kudasai is please give me blank.
So is that like more, is that like a particle?
Yeah, o is that particle. Remember the particle o? Haven't had it yet? Now it's showing up in some of our phrases.
Cool.
Okay. Ja
Yeah.
is like, well then. In that case,
So what's jamata? How does that
Ja.
turn into?
mata is like, well then,
What's a little-
later.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Dozo. Dozo is offering something to someone. It gets translated as please sometimes, but don't confuse it with kudasai or onegaishimasu. Onegaishimasu is asking for a favor. Kudasai is please give me. Dozo is here, please take it. Or please help yourself. Please have it. Okay, something like that. Domo, you've sometimes heard it with arigato, domo arigato. Yeah, it can be very, as in thank you very much. It can also be a standalone thanks, domo, kind of a casual thanks. And it can also mean like something is very extreme, like domo sumimasen is like excuse me very much.
Cool.
Okay. Janai desu. The negative form of des. So finally, you can say that something is not a student, or something is not a book. Janaides, with nouns. For now, we're only going to use it with nouns. We will, next semester, we'll learn other things to do with it. But for now, it's just going to be, noun plus des means it is that noun. Noun plus janaides means it is not that noun.
So janai is like a negative
Yeah, janai is a
prefix
negative
almost?
prefix, sort of. Yeah, so, これは pen じゃないです. This is not a pen. 本です. It's a book, right? Right. Yeah. Yeah. これは本じゃないです. This is not a book.
That is a
Magic pen です.
magic pen.
Yes. Magic marker. Magic pen です. In katakana, of course. 100. You remember 100? 100? Right? And then 200 is 200. Right? 300, 300.
Why is it byaku?
There are certain ones where the pronunciation shifts. Just the way it is. 400, 500, 600, 600. 6 shifts to 600, 600. 700,
700.
はい。800, 800, yeah. 900,
900.
right? And then 1000 is 1000. Okay, and I think we're out of time, so I think we're going to stop there. Arigato. Thanks for running on.
Sensei is almost like 1,000.
Except they're different kanji.
1,000 students. You're so good as a student, you become the teacher.
Yeah, except that would be nice if it were that simple, but they're different kanji.
Oh man, that's just coincidence.
Yeah, it's just homophones. There are loads of homophones in Japanese, which is one reason why they will never get rid of kanji. Because it would be too darn confusing with all the homophones.
English man can do it.